First things first, the audio for this is going to sound terrible, and for that I apologize. Secondly, there are dogs in this house, so you're going to be hearing a lot from them, so sorry if that bothers any of you guys. I'll try to work through it. Get up here, Gus, because I know you're going to bark at me. This is Gus, by the way. I haven't formally introduced him on any vlogs, but this is our dog. We adopted him. He's like 10 years old. More about him later. Okay, so I'm not going to make this an emotional video because I really hate emotional YouTube videos. I think people waste a lot of time by being extremely sympathetic for themselves, so I'm going to try to push past the emotion and just give you guys the information you want. So I had a heart attack, but I didn't have like a heart attack, you know, per se. Basically what I have is a thing called a myocardial bridge, and what that means is that there are, like, you know, we all have like veins and stuff on the outside, our arteries on the outside of our heart. Well, one of the arteries on the outside of my heart is infused with the muscle, so every time my heart beats, it closes that little artery. Not enough to completely like cut it off, but just enough to constrict blood flow. So yeah, and that was enough to knock me on my ass. Now it's weird because I've had this my entire life, is what the doctors say, but it's never affected me until now. So, and I did everything. I played tennis, I did cross country, I did soccer. I used to run till my limbs were numb. So it doesn't make any sense to me why it's affecting me now, and it kind of sucks, but it's a thing. And it's here now. So here's what happened. Sunday night, I went home from work feeling absolutely terrible. I had, you know, aches and pains all over my body. My body had chills and hot flashes. I had a huge headache. I had nausea. I had thrown up a few times. But I had D&D that night, so I pushed through for the importance of D&D. I pushed through, ran my campaign, and then went to bed feeling absolutely miserable. Monday morning, I woke up feeling god awful, like maybe even worse, and that's when I kind of realized something was incredibly wrong with me, because I had chills and aches and pains all over my body. I went through the whole day feeling like that. Tuesday rolled around and I felt just as bad, but luckily my work had called me and told me that I had an extra day off, so I took the day, and I wasn't getting any better. My headache was still there, my nausea was worse, my chills and aches and pains, it was just all getting worse and worse, and on top of it all, I started to develop a pain in my shoulder. Now, I've always had a pain in my shoulder ever since high school, since like tennis and all the sports that I played. I developed what I thought was tendonitis in my arm that I would later find out was not. So I got like an extreme pain in my arm and shoulder. It was like a shooting pain up and down. It was like pressure, and then my chest itself started feeling, you know, a little sore. Nothing to be alarmed about, but just a little bit sore. So I went through all of Tuesday feeling like absolute dog shit. I drank tons of water, tons of Gatorade. I ate grapes. I tried to stay hydrated as best as I could to kind of like get myself back on my feet for Wednesday, for going back to work. Tuesday night, around 12 o'clock, I woke up and the pain in my shoulder was just unbearable. It felt like someone was taking my arm and trying to rip it off out of its socket, like someone was just pulling and twisting it backwards. It hurt like hell. And then my chest, it felt like there was like an elephant sitting on my chest. Like the pressure was immense. Like I couldn't breathe, and I could feel my heart pounding. And you know, I got up, I got out of bed, I was doing nothing, I was sleeping, and this pain woke me up. And I got out of bed and I paced the halls of the house, and you know, I was walking back and forth, hunched over in pain. And eventually Lorena heard this, and she got up and came and checked on me, and that's when she asked, you know, do we need to take you to the hospital? And in my mind, I was thinking, these things I usually just let them pass. I usually just sleep on my pain, or if I'm having a hard time breathing, I just ignore it until it goes away, which is absolutely terrible. But no, this time I thought for sure I was having like a panic attack or something, so I had her take me to the ER. And when we arrived at the ER, I could barely stand at the front desk to fill out the paperwork, so they immediately took me to the back. They ran an EKG on my chest, and apparently it was spiking all over the place. So after that, they moved me to a room where they took a chest x-ray and they pumped me full of they pumped me full of insulin and morphine, saline. They pumped me full of saline, is that the right stuff? Whatever they pumped me with, I'll correct myself, but they put a bunch of morphine and a bunch of other chemicals inside my body to basically help numb the pain. They hooked me up, they did what's called double barreling. Basically, when you come in for chest pains to the hospital, they stick 2 IVs, one in each arm. So they double barreled me, and they drew blood, and they put in the IVs, and I was, as soon as I hit that bed, my entire left arm went numb. My entire right arm went numb, and my chest went numb, my face went numb, and my tongue started getting like tingles, like my entire body was going numb on me. And it was probably one of the most terrifying experiences I've ever had, like, without a doubt. But within like a matter of minutes of, you know, being there and them kind of like taking care of me, I started to calm down, and I regained feeling in my body. They rolled me over for a CAT scan. So I got to sit in that big old tube, and they pumped me full of contrast, which is the weirdest feeling. I don't know if any of you guys have ever had like is it a CAT scan? If I'm wrong, I'll correct myself, but basically they put you in that tube, and it runs and runs, and they tell you to hold your breath, and they pump you full of juice that makes you feel like you peed yourself. It's weird. But anyways, so they did that, and then after that I was rolled up to the ICU, but I was so pumped full of morphine that I didn't know what the hell was going on. But they rolled me up to the ICU, and I guess I was in and out of sleep for a while, because I could hear my family talking to me, and I could hear doctors asking me questions, and you know, I was somewhat coherent. I was answering here and there. One thing that kind of rang through was while I was in the ICU, I remember waking up and looking over at my family. My sister, my mom, and my girlfriend were all there, and they were like on the phone, and they were calling like my insurance, and they were trying to figure out what to do. And so I asked them, you know, what's going on, like what's happening, like what's going on, and they explained to me, like, you know, we're trying to find your insurance, we're trying to find how we're going to pay your medical bills, we're doing all of this, and you know, I guess whatever they told me might have overwhelmed me a little bit, because after that I immediately went into a second episode. The pain started shooting up and down my arm again, the pressure in my chest returned, and they told me I had another heart attack. So after that, they rolled me up to the cath lab, is what it's called, and they performed I don't remember what it's called, I'll put it on the bottom of the screen, but basically they took a small camera or something, and they inserted it into my wrist, and they ran it all the way up through the arteries into my heart to check for like a blockage, if there were any like kind of blockages in my heart, and they didn't find anything. It was 100% clean, and you know, that's when they kind of like looked at the x-rays and stuff, and that's when they found that myocardial bridge. They knocked me out for that surgery, and then after that, I really don't remember a whole lot. I remember coming back to the room with something that looked like a water wing, basically tightened to my arm. It was to keep the blood from, like, because they had put me on blood thinners, so it was like a tourniquet, a blow-up tourniquet that they would come and release pressure from every 30 minutes or so. But I remember having that and being in a splint for a little while, and just the discomfort that thing brought me was unreal. Along with, you know, having an IV in this side that wasn't plugged into anything, and then a second IV that was pumping me full of saline or whatever the stuff was that they were injecting me with, and it was awful. I hate hospitals, and I hate needles, and I hate being in situations that are out of my own control. And so this was like just one big nightmare to me. It was bad. I hated it. I hated every minute of it. But I remember sleeping really well that night, because I was like pumped full of morphine and crap. So I slept really well, and then I woke up the next morning, and you know, that's when like everything had stopped, and they kind of like actually I didn't wake up the next day because it was already the next day. But anyways, when I woke up, they kind of just explained everything to me that had happened, and oh man, it was scary. It was all really scary. And then, you know, there was talk of surgery and what I would need to kind of help me. And so, like, at first they told me, you know, you didn't have a heart attack. And then they came back a little bit later and said, turns out you had an extremely bad heart attack. So, that's fun. And similarly, first they told me I wasn't going to need surgery to fix this issue. And now it's like up in the air. So this is where I kind of like stand now. These are the options that were presented to me. Either I remain medicated for the rest of my life on blood thinners and baby aspirin, so nothing crazy, or I have a surgery where they're basically going to give me a bypass, and then I remain on medication for the rest of my life, which is basically baby aspirin and blood thinners. But anyways, that's about it. I'm pretty sure there's a ton of stuff I left out. If you guys have any questions about my condition or my time in the hospital or anything at all, leave it down below. I'll get back to you. But yeah, thanks for watching. I know that was a lot of, there's probably a ton of like random rambling, and you know, it was a lot to listen to, and I really appreciate if you sat here and you listened to the entire video. That's pretty much it.